The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow was the quietest place in the world. Besides the haunted, nothing much happened there. Until the night of the tassel party, Ichabod Crane marched into the party with his head held high, his tall frame and baggy clothes resembling an scarecrow. He was he was at the party for one reason: Katrina Van Tassel. Katrina stood out at the party like a red rose on a snowy day. She chatted with Brom Van Brunt. He was broad, shouldered and strong. Brom enjoyed riding around on his horse, Daredevil. Daredevil. He was known for pulling pranks and causing mischief around town. Brom Van Brunt also liked Katrina. Ichabod mastered his resolve and went straight up to them. "Excuse me, Katrina," Ichabod said. "Would you care to dance?" Brown and Brunt's face turned as red as a boiled lobster. "I'd love to dance," Katrina said as she grasped Ichabod's hand. Ichabod and Katrina toured around the dance floor as if there were no tomorrow. Their joyful and lively dancing caught the attention of everyone at the party. Ichabod imagined he could dance his way right to Katrina's heart. No longer Ichabod and Katrina danced, the more jealous Brown Van Brunt became. When the When the band took a break, Ichabod and Katrina stopped for a drink at a punch bowl. There stood Brom, sharing a ghost story with a group of friends. "I'll tell you the scariest story of all," said Brom and Brant. He stared directly at Ichabod. "Have you ever heard the Headless Horseman?" "No," Ichabod muttered, and gulped. Brown began to whisper, and the group leaned in closer. "Every night at midnight he rides through town on his horse, looking for his missing head," Brown said. "I've seen him with my very own eyes. I was riding along late at night when this fellow came trotting up. I asked him if he wanted a race. He didn't say a word, because he didn't have a hat. So I took off on Devil, Brown belonged. He became and he came tearing up behind me. I raised him up to the church bridge. I reached up. When his horse set foot on the bridge, he disappeared in a flash on fire. The audience stood in tense silence. "If you ever see a headless horseman," Brown and Brent said, "head to other side of Church Bridge. Otherwise you're done for, of course, if you're as fast as me, and you have nothing to worry about." "That's what really breaks you," Katrina said. He looked at Brown with delight and ad- admiration. Ichabod took one look at Brown and grunted. "Great imaginary story. Jealous of Katrina's ad- admiration for Brahms. Ichabod took her hand and pulled her toward the dance floor. The dance to a few more songs to Brom Van Brandt's story was stuck in Ichabod's head. Just before midnight, Ichabod said farewell to Katrina and promised to visit her soon. Then he climbed on the tired old plough horse he had borrowed from a local farmer. He set off home. The wind whistled through the branches, the owls shrieked. The headless horseman filled Ichabod's mind. He attempted to sing to soothe himself, but his normally stony voice caught in his throat. Then he heard another sound coming up behind him. A horse. The horse and rider trotted up next to Ichabod, but it was too dark to see them. "Good evening," Ichabod said. The rider said nothing. Up ahead, Ichabod could make out the church bridge. He started to ride a little faster. The rider matched his pace. "This is strange fog we're having," Ichabod said, trying to make conversation. Again the rider said nothing. The moon slid out from behind a cloud. Ichabod looked over the rider and froze. The rider had no hat. In his hand the rider held a huge pumpkin that seemed to glow in the moonlight. He raised it high above where his head should have been as it burst into flames. Ichabod screamed and kicked the side of his horse. The horse barely sped up. The safety of the church bridge waited up ahead. The rider was close, but then Ichabod heard his horse's hoofs stomp, stomp on the wooden bridge. Stomp on the wooden bridge. He sighed with relief. "I made it," Ichabod screamed. He heard the rider's horse behind him. He turned to look from the safety of the bridge. A flash of flames rushed toward him, and all went dark. The next morning, a schoolboy discovered Ichabod's horse grazing in a field by a church. On the ground next to the old bridge, he found Ichabod had a scorched pumpkin. Ichabod himself had disappeared. No longer after Ichabod vanished from Sleepy Hollow, Katrina and Brom were married. Then folks told the story about Ichabod Crane. Brom and Brunt would always smile. Some said Brom drove Ichabod away. Others, those who knew about such things, swore the headless horseman had taken him on that dark night.